Happy Wonderful Classroom Wednesday. On today's show, we're talking about sparking curiosity. Here are 3 ideas. 1, keep a wonder book, the place where you collect the quotes, the overheard conversations, and the questions you don't have answers to yet. 2, let's open our lessons with a story hook that sparks curiosity. 3, when Todd Nesloni was an elementary principal, every door in his building had a sign. What am I reading? With the cover of the book. Not just teachers, the custodian, the counselor, the ladies in the lunchroom, and the PE coach. Every adult in that building was quietly telling kids, I have a lot to learn, I'm still curious, and I'm still reading. Now, let's find out how Brandie sparks curiosity in her students.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Brandie Wright is a STEM educator and an ISTE AI coach at Yellowhab, the tuition-free micro school Pharrell Williams created in Norfolk to even the odds for kids the system too often overlooks. So, Brandie, you took the main stage on. How did you feel when the folks at ISTE emailed you and said, hey, we want you to tell your story about how you teach kids?
I was blown away. This was actually a dream of mine to be on the main stage. A few years ago, I told my friend, I said, take a picture of me in front of the stage. I said, I'm going to do that one day. Oh. They asked me to share a story around curiosity. Mm-hmm. They're like, we want the teacher's story. We want your story. So it was a real story of a real student. He was here.
Oh, he was here.
He came. He and his father came, and they were on the front row. That was a last-minute gift from our school. I didn't know that was going to be possible. I didn't think that people would think he wasn't real until my friend told me literally just yesterday. She said, no, people thought you made him up. And I said, really? Once I got the full story and how I wanted to tell it, then I gave them pictures. So that picture of him looking up, that's a real picture that my coworker took. We were in the aquarium, and
this is a whole other issue that we can talk about in a minute, because I was sitting there and I was messaging my son, John, and I was like, okay, this is an amazing person. I just hope the student is real. So tell a little bit about this student. Mm-hmm. Did you get to use his real name?
That is his real name.
So tell a little bit about this student.
When I first met Kamari, right, the school had only been open 2 years. He was in 3rd grade. And so he's a twin. He and his twin went there, and I became their new teacher in the middle of the school year in January. So you could imagine they were already at a new school that just started this new concept of a micro school. What do you mean? I'm coming from a public school, and now I'm in this small school that's with these kids I don't know. He was just one of those kids. He was very busy, but he was talkative, and I could tell he loved basketball. He loved football. Like, that was the thing, and they always wanted to play. I was saying it didn't take very long for us to really develop a connection, and I think it came around because I also love football.
When you have that connection with that kid. I mean, because some kids just have connections with different teachers.
They do. Yeah. And so we have a format at our school. We call it crew. And so some schools do this where it's not just homeroom. Crew is very much like your school family. So you have a crew leader. So I was his crew leader. What it is they come to us first in the morning, but then we also see them at the end of the day. When we go on a field trip or any learning experience, we go by crew. So, and then they stay with us every year. So he's been in my crew. This is his 4th year.
Wow.
So you could imagine, right, the relationship that we've built. So over the years, it's gone from I came to his football game, and it was like, whoa, like they're like, whoa, you're coming to my football game. And then it was we just developed a real connection, and I love how inquisitive he is. Literally, when they came here, when they came for the main stage, and right outside the main stage, there's a nice sign, and it has this thing standing up, and there's like things sticking out of it. And I said, let's go take a picture in front of the sign, right? And he looked up and he said, do you think they made that? And I said, see, this is what I'm saying. He sees things and he automatically asks questions.
Oh, I love it.
That's just his thing. And he doesn't mind. Like, he knows he can say, Miss Brandie, what about this? And that's really like how I was saying my name. That was intentional because that's how he says my name. Wow. So at our school, they can address us however we allow them to. They don't have to say Miss Wright. They could say whatever I allow. I thought that was great. And so I told them they can call me Miss Brandie. I said, you can call me Miss B. Some people, Miss B Wright. You can call me most of them say Miss Brandie. So how he says my name, it's like it's one word, Miss Brandie.
I love it.
So he literally is that inquisitive. He loves to try new foods. Anything I say, like, let's try this, or what do you think about this? And he's like, okay. Like, he's ready to try it. And math has been a real challenge where he loves it, but sometimes he gets frustrated.
Yeah.
And I had to remind him, like I was his math teacher in the beginning because we had a kind of a blended learning environment where all of us taught 2 classes, micro schools. That's what happens. So I was teaching missions and numeracy. So I was his numeracy teacher also. But now I'm not his math teacher, but he's still during crew, he'll say, Miss, he'll grab the whiteboard marker. Like that's true. When I said like it's magical, he's like, he'll go get a whiteboard marker because our table is a whiteboard. And he'll say, Miss Brandie, give me some multiplication facts. Hey, we're learning multi-digit, right? And he was like, can you give me some problems? If we're just sitting there, he's like, hey, can you write some problems on that?
He goes from a kid who doesn't like math to just works math for fun.
Yeah, he loves it.
With you.
Loves it. Yeah. And I'm not even his math teacher anymore. But sometimes when he's in math, which there she has to really push him in some things and teach him some new things. When he gets frustrated, she sends him to me. Because you have to remember, crew is very much like family. So I'm his school mom, right?
Yeah.
And they know. So if you're having issues with Kamari, if he's frustrated, if he's stuck in the mud, if he's a little rambunctious, maybe he needs to be calmed down, right? They send him to me. So, or they'll say, hey, go talk to Miss Brandie about this. Or they'll come and talk to me and then I talk to him. But when he's learning something new, he's so excited about math. Like that is his thing. He's like, I can do this. I love it. The whiteboard marker is truly magical.
So glad, Brandie, that I found you yesterday at the AI portrait of an AI graduate pavilion. Now, I want to talk about that pavilion.
Sure.
What is happening at this pavilion, right? Because I think this is a really neat thing to do at a conference.
100%. So they are highlighting each role, right? There's 6 roles. So I have had the privilege of facilitating a community of practice for Generation AI. It's the STEAM, and they are educators teaching grades 4 through 12. So we had 2 community of practices, but the STEAM grades 4 through 12, that's the one I facilitate. And what they had to do was they had to pick a strand, one of the roles, and they created like a proposal to say, well, how are you using generative AI to address a particular problem of practice?
Wow.
So they could look at their class, or maybe they're a coach. They could look at educators that they're training and say, I've identified this issue, and this is how generative AI can help me with this issue. So then they go through like a design thinking type process, right? Just like we try to teach students to do. And they had to submit that as a proposal. Some of them were actually able to test it, implement it, get data, and show that. Some of them are in the middle. Right? Because clearly we started this in February. Maybe they didn't get a chance. They're kind of still in the planning phases. So the way the AI Pavilion was set up, I thought this was genius. Whoever created it and designed it is genius. So on one side of the board, it'll say problem solver. And it has some Chromebooks there for you to go through a little exercise. But on the other side, it was one of our community of practice members, and they were showing how they used their problem of practice to do problem solving.
Sometimes like you might have 10, and sometimes it was 3 or 4. But what I like is it is the humans communicating with humans about how to use the machine. And I got that quote from Karim Megji from Code AI yesterday, but it feels very teachery.
Absolutely. And people could walk around and ask questions. And we explained to them, this is science fair style, meaning you're not here to stand and just do a presentation. You are here so that people feel like, oh, that topic, oh yeah, I'm a science teacher. How did you do that? Then you get to talk to them. They get to ask questions. They can see your slides, but then they can also just talk to you. Show me how you did that. So that's what it was.
Since I sat there, you and then the lovely lady after you, I literally texted our cameraman, John, and was like, okay, this would be great, except I think that AI wrote these stories. I think these kids are real. Okay, so what makes me as a teacher listen to a teacher? And there was nothing about you that was disbelievable. You were telling that story like it was real.
Yeah.
Well, what makes me and others, it sounds like, have to come to you and say, was that a real student? And he was sitting on the front row. Why do we have to prove we're human in the age of AI? Why do we have to prove it's like that bothers me?
Yeah.
It bothers me that I made the mistake of thinking that was not a real student. So why is it where you are telling a story and you're having to prove that it's real?
And honestly, my answer is probably going to be a little shocking, but it's because we forget where AI really comes from. The things that are generated, the responses, they are generated by a computer that was programmed by a human and studied human stories. So they're believable because there was a human that actually programmed the response. It should seem real, but it's sad that they are so real. It's sad sometimes that it's so believable because it makes people think that they don't need the actual human. That's the sad part. I agree with you that we should be able to know that this was a real person.
Are we
going to
have a stamp now?
Yeah, you
real
should.
human
I
story. Like,
know.
we shouldn't have to do that.
But think about food. I'll give an analogy.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we knew that when we got a potato chip, right? Or when you went to McDonald's when we were kids, when we went to McDonald's, the French fries were French fries. They were French. We knew they were from potatoes.
Yeah.
Do we think they're from potatoes now? Who knows? That's the point. So I would give that same analogy. I think that there was a time where you knew when someone wrote a book that those were their words. You knew when you read a poem that they wrote that poem. You knew when you saw a picture that they painted that picture. Now, because of the progression of technology, when you look at it, you do have to wonder. At some point, I think it's going to get to where people won't care, unfortunately. But now we have to question. People won't question. They'll just say, well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
We don't want to be deceived. I've
We
seen
don't.
so many people reshare stories about that teacher who quit for that reason.
Yeah.
And it was a fake teacher and it was not, it was a fake reason and
Yeah.
it was just being shared for whatever reason to get clicks. Brandie, is that it makes me feel good as a teacher to have a human connection because we relate. And I do have to say this about one of your founders. I've been through a couple of hard years with the pandemic and I'm going to tell you, I probably half funded your school for how many times I have played Happy. And my son can attest to that because it's I'm having my parents pass, all the different things, but it's okay, I'm going to be happy.
Absolutely.
And I would play that song.
Yes.
And if I had a crabby person in my house, I would turn it on and leave that. It's a decision.
Yes.
And so much about thriving in this age.
Absolutely.
Our decisions that we as humans make that nobody can make for us and the human connections we have and asking the questions because how would I have known? Remember how the keynote speaker said, we have to admit that we don't know. If I hadn't actually asked you that question,
You would have
been
thought,
real with you.
Yeah. You would have thought he wasn't real.
Then how would I know? Because we're going to move forward with real conversations and real questions being real.
So I have a question for you. So if you didn't know that he was real, would it change the impact of my story? Did it, when you found out that he was real?
It does make a difference because AI is supposed to help us be better humans, not pretend to be human. And when we feel that there's something artificial in it, because I think we're so hungry for human connections since the pandemic in particular, I want a connection with a person, a woman on stage.
Yes.
And see, now as I've talked to you, I have that connection. Now, I love the story enough to reach out to the media team to say, hey, can I talk to her? There was enough because here's the thing. Even though I wasn't sure if the story was true, I felt like you were real.
Yeah.
There had to be a story behind the story that I got. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think even to your credit, doing this, I really strongly encourage you to continue to do this in this age of AI where tools such as Notebook LM, this is important. Sitting here talking, this is real. The human connection is real. Being able to look at someone is real. You don't have to guess. Like you said, this is me. I could have, if you had sent me the questions over email, I could have typed anything.
I'll send people the questions for that very reason.
See,
because
so this
I
is
don't
important.
we say it, I don't want AI slop.
Yeah.
You
want the real response.
Human connections because I think we're hungry for it.
Absolutely.
I think our kids are hungry for it because your student could all day long interact with AI.
Mm-hmm.
He would never be doing math problems on his own because he interacted with AI.
No.
It's the craftsmanship of being a teacher.
And they prefer that.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the kids, they prefer to be with the teacher physically. Yeah. That's one of the big things about our school. That's why it's small. That's why we keep our classes small. That's why we understand that there's power in these small groups and small classes so that they don't get lost. They're not going to depend on the technology. They would much rather grab a whiteboard marker, and that's most of the kids, and work out the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use iReady and iExcel and all the things for a little bit here and there, but that's not their go-to. It's not their preference. So we got to maintain that. If we could really maintain their desire and keep feeding it so that they don't lose it. See, guess what? If we starve that from them, if we keep it from them, then it'll dwindle.
Yeah.
They won't have it anymore. So we got to keep it.
Well, if we have any proof from the pandemic, it's that screens and kids by themselves don't make progress. Mm-hmm. It's teachers who are artisans and craftsmen who are loving the kids and who are helping us move forward. We have been talking with Brandie Wright, STEM educator and AI coach at yellow tab. Tuition-free micro school Pharrell Williams created in Norfolk. And this has been a joy. Thank you for letting me find you yesterday at the AI Pavilion and changing your schedule so we could sit down and talk. This is a great, it went in a direction that we didn't expect.
Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.